learning how to identify levels of support resistance. Good exercises to do exactly what Ben's done. He started at the very top. He's just going to pull it down. Well, first off, we have a level of resistance right at where it's at. You can see that. You know, the ball came up and bounced off the ceiling. Not just once, twice, maybe 3 or 4 times-ish. And remember, I will iterate this over and over again. We're talking about levels of support resistance. We're not using fine line paint, and we're using a 4-inch paintbrush, so to speak, right? So these are areas. So that level of resistance is prevalent. Then we come down, we see another one. Keep coming down, Ben. And right in here, we can see that that has been a level of support and resistance. Can everybody see that? Can you see where it came down in around June and just kind of bounced off of it, then it went up, broke through that ceiling, found a new ceiling, came back down, broke through that floor almost immediately, and then found that floor again, that came even further. But then if we keep going across, you can see that those floors and ceilings began to manifest themselves again. There's a reason for that. You know, when you have buyers and sellers, you're no different. You'll say, I like this stock at this price. When it comes to this price, I'll go ahead and buy it. Well, that's what's happening around levels of support and resistance. Everybody can see these levels of support and resistance. And so they do become areas where we see a lot of this action. Keep coming down, Dan.
Okay.
You can just see Dan, and I'm going to have drop it there. You can see as Dan's coming down, sometimes we can just see somebody else do it. It can help. Now, there's going to be this question's going to come up. Many of you know about candlesticks. I'm not going to get into candlesticks right now, but candlesticks have wicks. And when we look at these candlesticks, we're seeing some wicks. The question sometimes becomes, do I draw it at the top of the wick? Do I draw it at the top of the body? Do I draw it in the middle? And the answer to your question is yes. Why is that? Because we're using the 4-inch paintbrush, right? Because we're using the 4-inch paintbrush. So it doesn't necessarily matter. I would encourage you, if you're going to do it one way, do it that way always. But it doesn't really matter where exactly you draw those levels. Keep coming down, Ben, okay. You can see. Now, also, I see a level of diagonal support, Ben, if you care about in August. It may go up to the red, yeah. And then just draw that up. There you go. So you can see a diagonal level of support there as well. So I'm going to challenge you. Actually, I'm going to invite you that when you go home, that you get a bunch of charts and you can just go through that out.
How many of you draw lines on your charts now? Yeah, good. So let me ask you this. Again, knowing that you've got some very, very smart people in this room, how many of you are engineers or mathematically inclined and great? Awesome. Thank you. Because when you're a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer or a chemical engineer, you're building rockets and roads and creating pharmaceuticals and things like that, I want to know, especially if I'm traveling on those roads for those aircraft, that you were very precise in your calculations. That you take things out to 6 or 7 digits of precision in making those calculations. That's awesome. But when we're talking about technical analysis, we're talking about lines of support and resistance, my approach, and perhaps the way that we maybe look at the market, is more the Jimmy Buffett approach than the mechanical engineer approach. And the reason I say that is Jimmy Buffett has this great song called Cheeseburger in Paradise. It describes the best cheeseburger as being one that's not too particular, not too precise. So when we talk about levels of support and resistance, because there are differences of opinion between traders, levels of support and resistance are very, very rarely, if ever, calculated to 6 significant digits of precision. Drawing your line to the areas that make sense without being too particular and too precise about it.
Man, you said that they're hardly ever drawn to 6 digits of precision. I was hard to say that.
Yeah, I would argue that too. Now, when we code our decision-making process into the platform to make a trade, we can't just say, get in around this area, right? We can sort of, but we can't just say, I'm not going to be too particular or not too precise. When I put in that buy order for Coca-Cola, in that buy stop, I said, get in at 64.30 or above. So I had to put in a precise level, but recognize that these levels of support and resistance just simply are not calculated that way. And some people will try to do that, and I will tell you this, having gone both routes, it leads to frustration when you try to calculate levels of support resistance to those specific digits. Draw the lines that make the most sense in the context of what we're doing. So that's why you notice that on that diagonal trend line down there at the bottom, there are some levels that the tails and the shadows and the wicks of those candles have gone through. And then we even have this little bit of a pullback in the last couple of days where price went below that level and it's now starting to come back above that level. Depending on the width of our level of support or resistance, or depending on how precise we were willing to be on that level, that might still be in that longer term uptrend.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Ben, that's manifesting itself right around 410. We're seeing levels of support that didn't actually come down and hit the level of support that we drew. Is it still a level of support? The answer is yes. Right?
So we've got this level of support that we drew in here that was a support, now potentially acting as a resistance right around that 420. Could we objectively say, if price breaks resistance at 420, then enter the trend? Else, wait. Right? That's what we did with our Coca-Cola example at the top over here in Coca-Cola. We just did the same thing. We drew the same type of perspective in. Zoomed in a little bit. We had a diagonal level of resistance. We had a horizontal or a diagonal level of support. And I drew in a horizontal level of resistance based on a previous time, previous point at which price changed correctly. We use that as our basis for making a decision. So levels of support resistance along the trend are our major decision-making framework in using technical analysis and reason evidence. Right?
You got it.
Cool. I wanted to show you two other examples here, Scott, and then we're gonna do this. So I wanted to show you this example, HLT. This Hilton Hotel.
Look at this, yeah.
Right? What just happened last days with Hilton that's significant?
What is,
They must have had some good.
who is this?
There was an earnings announcement here. News came into the system and changed the market's understanding of the company's valuation. The market was willing to value the company higher, but it broke through what? How did we know that it was previous resistance?
We broke the level.
It changed direction there before.
Yeah.
Okay, so could that
makes
have
sense.
been an entry statement if price breaks above resistance at 258 or 259, wherever it's drawn, then enter the trade elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, can you zoom from about where you are?
I need to look at this chart.
Oh, yeah,
So zoom in.
right here.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it wasn't just resistance in the past, it was resistance in the past couple of days.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's another thing to think about with support and resistance. There's a phrase that I like to use that maybe helps us to understand what it is we're seeing right now. It's look left to confirm right. So looking left on the chart, I see that, that level right around 258, 259 was a previous level of resistance. Which means it's likely to be a level of resistance again when price gets to that level. So now I can look for the unusual occurrence of price breaking through the resistance as we take action. Right? And it happened on an earnings announcement.
Now it's here.
Because
Yeah,
earnings
it's about to take my
announcements change
I guess.
the information that the market has about the company, right?
That's
Earnings
why
announcements
we
are
need,
oftentimes because they're scheduled
this help.
those times where you'll see breakouts. You also see around other news events. That can be a way that you can start the trade. If the price breaks through resistance and to the trade. Now, I wanted to look at another one.
Hey, wait, Ben, on this one, do we pull up your trend line and begin drawing a line at the top of the candle right around 1.6?
Right there?
And, oh,
Oh, top of the candle.
January 6th, higher, more to the left, 2 more days, right there.
Right there?
Yeah, so look, we have a level of resistance that's kind of a diagonal, right in that area.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, right there. So you see a bit of a slant to that resistance level right there. We actually
Everybody
had
back up.
coming back a few days back to
We gotta get
January
it.
27th. More opportunities to enter that type of trade. Yeah, well, so just make sure that you're looking for these things. They don't have to be huge candles. But those momentum candles can help us make that better decision.
And if
Just
that's our
gotta be
entry
patient, wait.
structure, right, if that's our thought process around entry, we could use something like this as a
Am I
means
losing from that?
to
Oh,
the
Google,
trade.
from
So
Google, yeah.
Honeywell, generally
losing.
moving higher, it's kind of gone sideways over an intermediate period of time, and we might have said, if price breaks support,
Yeah.
which we've seen before, kind of right around that 218, 220 range, then exit the trade elsewhere. That could be our risk management in this trade. So it's like what we're doing is getting on the bus and then determining where our stops are going to be, where our relevant stops are going to be. So
Is this
we
your
might
phone?
say, fine, I'm getting on the bus to Savannah, but if in fact
Oh, the
the
double
bus goes to, City, right? South, all the way, I'm gonna get off, the bus goes to
That's how I do full time.
then I'm gonna get off the bus. That makes sense? We're determining where our stop or our exit is, instead of saying, well, price is going down, so I'm just gonna give it one more day. Or,
Do you?
what oftentimes happens is
Did you
this
get on the
statement, oh, it's going down, it's cheaper now, so I'm gonna buy more.
This is crazy.
I have a really quick question about that, because this is something
I
I've been
don't,
thinking
the
about for a
computer's
long time.
connected, but
In
I have
terms
my
of
phone.
behavioral psychology when it comes to trading. How many of us are willing to buy more when the price is lower
Oh, you sure?
because we think, wow, I can get it cheaper? But we're unwilling to buy more when the price is going higher because now we're adding to a winning position. Right? Are we more willing to buy when it's cheaper and add to a
Let's
losing
go.
position
Let me out of
than
this.
we are to add to a winning position when it's
That's
going
what
higher?
happened when I took a bad trade.
Because it's more expensive, because we're afraid it's not gonna go up?
I took a bad trade, y'all.
Scott said that, not
A
me.
very bad trade.
I said we.
You can turn around.
Yeah, we.
You're just waiting.
Remember, we are, right? We want
Literally
to
waiting for it to turn
where
around.
we're getting the best value, but this kind of shifts our mindset, isn't it? From being a value investor, driven by the value of the company,
what's
to being
that?
a technical investor, driven by the evidence
Oh,
on the chart. So as we get this, understanding trend direction, time frame, understanding levels of support and resistance become significant in helping us to make decisions around our trading. Now,
That's
Scott,
so
one of the
true.
things that I wanted to bring up, I can talk about it in terms of trend, is we looked at different time frames of the chart, and we saw levels of support and resistance that existed, or levels of trend that existed. It's the same thing worked for levels of support.
The answer is yes, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about 1 minute or 1 day.
yeah, we only losing $65.
So I'm gonna go back to
All we need, even if NVIDIA break 130, we good. As soon as she break it, we good. But we got a red candle up there. It's not a candle.
some of those areas that we've already drawn on the chart were acting, these are each weekly.
Just wait. We need like 2 more. But she on the way.
Is being able to make those
Spy?
decisions. So that's the longer
Come
term,
kiss my butt.
right? Technical support resistance, portable to longer term timeframes, and in fact, being able to identify, going back to that look left to confirm right idea, those oftentimes will give us some insight into what's happening now. Because typically, levels of support resistance from the past may repeat themselves in the present. They don't always, but they can at least inform us about what might be going on. And then likewise, if we were to take this back down, to say for instance, that 1 day, 1 minute chart, oh, there's a line of support and resistance that we drew on the daily chart that now over the course of the last
But the
day and a
computer
half
connected. I
has
don't
been
know how.
acting
When I
as
went in
a
the
level
workshop
of
and
support
I entered the
and
password,
resistance.
it
So in
connected
the
back
short
to the other
term,
one.
now that we're 1 day,
Like,
1
try to
minute,
go back to
what's just happened in the
the
last
other Wi-Fi that
like
was at
30
first.
minutes on the price of the stock since the price of the market opened? It's
The
gone down,
contract chart.
hasn't it? And in fact, over here on the right-hand side, it's broken that level of support, and in fact, if you
Which
go
is
back
it?
down here
Yeah.
and draw another level of support, it just did something in the last few minutes.
Yo, what's going on?
the last 2 or 3
No.
minutes, it's broken down another level of support. hasn't
We're
it?
losing more money.
So if you're a shorter term trader, intraday trader, these levels of support matter as well, because again, they can be suited. Right? So, does that help? Question? Oh, good question. Okay, so thank you for asking that. I did not plan to ask that question, but I might as well have.
Yes,
So,
you did.
You notice that we haven't said anything about volume yet, have we? We simply talked about trend, and we talked about support research. Now, let me ask just a general question first before I launch into my controversial opinion. Is volume important to understand?
Yes.
What does volume tell us?
How many people buying?
Number of traders or number
Yeah,
of
the
trades
number of people
happening,
in
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be important for us as traders to know the volume that's occurring on the stock on a particular over a particular time frame? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Very important.
Good. I agree with that.
100%.
Now, remember I said we have retail traders and we have institutional traders? We are retail traders. Right? Institutions are the other entity that we're working with. And it used to be that we could tell where institutions were buying and selling because these big volume spikes on the volume charts, right? The institutions are stepping in and you can see that movement. Kind of like the old joke, right? How do you know when there's an elephant in your refrigerator? You open the door and you see the footprints in the butter. Institutions used to leave really big volume footprints in the butter. Guess what? Those institutions figured out that if we can see as retail traders that volume, that big footprint in the butter, so would other institutions. And if other institutions could see that that was happening, they would then make trades based on that information to front run
We're in
or
NVIDIA
follow
Inspire.
on with what other institutions
I'm about to
are doing,
pull out
thus
of NVIDIA,
creating
but I gotta
more
stay inspired.
market impact.
Let me see. I think my contract's in today, though. They do.
Mostly in the
That's
last
how
10
they
to
do.
15 years.
Crap.
Significantly more so in the last 5 years. We started to break their trades up 2 ways. Couple of different. One, they started to break their trades up into smaller blocks, so it didn't create big volume spikes. That's what we know as high frequency trading or algorithmic trading in a lot of senses, right? So they hide those footprints in the bucket. They smooth the footprints out a little bit. They spread it out over a much bigger piece of bucket. But 2, they started to say, well, wait a second, if we allow all of our trading volume to be visible, then those footprints are very obvious. So let's make our volume not as obvious. So if I'm going to place a trade and I want to buy 100 million shares of Coca-Cola, I'm going to break that up into smaller blocks, and I'm also going to call my buddy Scott at another investment firm or hedge fund or mutual fund company and say, hey Scott, here's what I got to do. I got to move 100 million into Coca-Cola. Let's do a couple of trades over the next couple of days, just between you and me. We'll place those trades. We'll make that deal, and it gets reported in price because price changes. But guess what? That volume doesn't get seen in the daily volume display. Have you heard of dark pools of liquidity? A dark pool of liquidity is not nefarious. It's not evil. It's simply me as an institutional trader calling up and placing a trade, establishing a market in an area that's not a net exchange, or not a publicly transparent exchange. I'm not going to the NYSE or the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, or the American Stock Exchange, and placing the trade over that brokerage. I'm calling up somebody else at another brokerage firm and saying, let's do this deal. And then that volume gets aggregated and reported later. Sometimes the play has 4 or 5 days later if they're trading overseas with a buddy at an overseas branch, it might be a week later or 2 weeks later that that volume gets aggregated. And that's why volume generally now is not your father's volume. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you an example of this really quickly, then we've got to move to another discussion here. So I want to do this. I'm going to go over to the gear icon up here at the top of the chart. Many of you are familiar with how to do this, but you notice that I have not been showing volume. I'm going to go up here to equities, and I'm going to click right here on show volume subgraph. And I'm going to click on apply and OK. And now at the bottom of the chart, you see that volume display. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here to that gear icon. I'm going to go to appearance, and I'm going to color those volume bars the same color as the candlesticks or the bars that are displaying prices. And I'm going to click on apply and OK. Now this is more familiar to what you see with volume displayed on the chart. Yes?
She can break through this.
Now, there are some volume spikes. You notice that typically can happen on a regular basis.
She can shoot it.
That's when that consolidated tape gets aggregated by those institutions. You'll typically tend to see those volume spikes occur. But we don't see the same daily volume spikes or differentiations we saw 10 years ago. So if I go back on this chart, and I say, let's go back, back 15 years. And I'm going to click on OK. You notice if you go back a few years and you start to see greater variation in volume back here 5 or 10 years ago, then you see now volume tends to be more normalized down. So it's less significant of a technical indicator. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. There are ways we can look at volume by price instead of by time frame that become more significant, but if you look at volume here, and the other thing is option trading volume can't be hidden in darkness because options only trade on the exchange, so it's something that we're going to pay attention to. So hopefully that's been helpful in understanding why we don't spend a lot of time on volume in this discussion. And if you want to continue this conversation with me, because I've had people walking.
Don't deal with today, guys.
About volume, I would encourage you to connect with me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at VenWattsCCS. You can also follow Ray and Scott on X as well. Barb Armstrong is there as well. So here's what we've got, Scott, so far. We've got trend, direction,
Took a 6 month.
we've got levels of support,
Just came back.
resistance. We've kind of got that framework around if it breaks,
Let me show
or if
y'all
it breaks,
my position
or if it
right now,
bounces, or
because
if
it's
it bounces,
bad.
we can do something when that circumstance
Positions are
occurs,
pretty
right?
bad right now.
Now, there's one other part that we're going to talk about after our break, which is the idea of momentum. So let's give Scott Durfee a big round of applause. So, speaking of levels of support and resistance, I know that some of you probably reached some biological levels of resistance in your bladder. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back at, it is now 10 minutes due. I'm sorry, it's now 20 minutes due. We're going to come back at 10 minutes due, and we've got some resources that I want to give you, both our educational resources, as well as some of the resources. But take this opportunity also to have conversations with folks at the branch, with our partners, with banking and fixed income, and with our traders and reps, and we'll talk more about them when we come back. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
This is Swab. Yeah, this is Swab. It's on their website. Hold on, y'all. What the happened? Nigga, it was right there. That nigga just dropped. I should have hopped in right there. That's Netflix. Huh? That's Netflix. Okay, so what the heck just happened to the video? I'm wondering $9 today. If that motherfucker go back up to 280, yeah. breaking it. Trying to get her to break this video. Still at 10:13, even with that drop. That shit crazy. Yeah. It's swap. You go on their website. It's tomorrow from 9 to 4 in Atlanta. Alright, come on, Tesla. Sorry. I'm not trying to get copyrighted for this music, y'all. Come on, Tesla. Come on. Swap. Get me back in the game, so I'm gonna get out of here. Can't take it out. I held as long as I possibly could. Sold it out. I can't do it. I was about to break through. That's what I'm hoping, like, damn. Don't want to get, see if it don't go, it's gonna return. So I might have to take a loss. It's hard though, cause you know, don't want to go. Oh, they about to go over the Greeks now. I thought our options was tomorrow. No, they went over the options today. Oh, man. No, they're playing music. I'm gonna have to get off. I'll come back when they're not playing music.